Hi there, it's me at Mutant Mother, Wife and Autistic too. So I decided to answer one question that people might have, which is, what is a tracheostomy and what does it involve if you live with one? Quite a lot, as it turns out. Obviously, my daughter has had one for 10 years, so I'm quite used to it, but the first 2 years were absolute hell. A tracheostomy is a little tube like this. Let me take this out. It's a little tube like this. And this bit here sits inside your neck. And these bits are held on by trachea tapes, which come like this. And you change them every day, or every other day in our case. And basically, they go around the back of the neck and they tie and hold the tracheostomy in place. A tracheostomy is used when a child or a person or an adult can't breathe through their nose or mouth. And in Zoe's case, she was born with the back of her throat completely blocked. So I don't know if you know this, but the nasal cavity passes into your trachea at the top, and then it's just all one big hole. So when it was blocked at the back of her neck, both her nose and her mouth were blocked. So essentially she started suffocating the moment she was born. And this little beauty was put in to give her an airway. So what happens is they put a hole into your neck below the larynx, your voice box, and they put it below there and they stick it in there as modelled by, don't mind Rosie in the background, Dora, who is my daughter's doll who has trachea. And as you can see, Dora's got the tapes tied at the back, and there's a special knot that you do to keep them in place. And if you imagine that the top half of her head can't breathe, this is the only thing that's keeping her alive. So if it comes out, or if it blocks, or if the child tries to block it with something, as boys want to do, your child can suffocate to death, which is what makes having a tracheostomy life-threatening. Children, I won't be able to demonstrate on Dora because Dora's made out of plastic and it's a really small hole that her trachea's in. So it doesn't come out as easily as it would on a human. Zoe's tracheostomy stoma in her throat is quite big. So if she was a child who craves attention, she could just do that and she'd pop it out. And then in the days when she was completely reliant upon it, she would collapse in a blue heap and proceed to go into respiratory distress. On a day-to-day basis, I've just realised I've forgotten something, but never mind. On a day-to-day basis, most children have something called a Swedish nose on. And it's basically like a little plastic tube that you sit on the end, and it's got paper on either end, sort of like paper coils, and it humidifies because obviously when you breathe through your nose, your nasal hairs stop any viruses, but they also moisten the air that goes into your lungs. And when a child has a tracheostomy, obviously this doesn't happen because it's just a hole going directly into the lungs, no hair, nothing. And so it's very, very dry. And what this can do is it can cause the lungs and the neck to produce secretions to moisten the air. So by putting a Thermavent T, which is this thing that I've forgotten to bring down to show you, on the end, you humidify the air, which is what the nasal hairs are doing. And the child, you'll hear some noise like as if she had a snotty nose like this, but it's coming through the tube. So anyone who looks after a child with tracheostomy has to be able to do two things. Firstly, they have to know how to put one of these things in an emergency situation. So if it blocks and if the child can't breathe, you have to do an emergency tracheostomy change. Or if it pops out, you have to immediately put a new one in because obviously this is a stoma going directly into the lungs. You don't want to put a dirty tracheostomy back into the stoma. You want a brand new one or a clean one. Zoe's tracheostomies are called bivonas. They're made out of silicon and they have a metal coil in this part, which used to not be able to go to an MRI scanner, but apparently is safe now. And so therefore they're very bendy and they're much more comfortable. There's another type called a Shiley, which is plastic and quite hard and firm and doesn't move at all. So those ones are, well, in the old days, they used to be disposable. You used to have to only be able to wear one for a week and then you'd have to throw it away and put a new one in. bivonas can be worn for up to 4 weeks, at which point you take it out, put a new one in, and then you boil these to make them clean again. You wash them and then you boil them, and then you can reuse them up to 5 times. Although I tend to reuse mine up to 3 or 4 because Zoe gets them dirty and they just start to wear, and I don't really feel safe leaving it till 5. So that's tracheostomy. When you put them in, it comes with this thing called an introducer. And basically what that does is it makes this bit stiff so that when you put it into the neck, it's solid as opposed to being really bendy. You can imagine how much panic that would cause if it was all flopping about while you're trying to get it into the neck of your child who couldn't breathe while this was out. So all parents and carers who look after children with tracheostomies have to learn how to do a tracheostomy change in a calm situation, a tracheostomy change in a panicky situation. They have to know how to put the ties on, how to make them secure. And the other thing they need to do, which is done on a daily basis and basically keeps your kid alive, is they have to learn how to suction. Suctioning involves getting, I'm going to put this here, and I'll show you that in a minute, involves using catheters, which is what this is. As you can see, our catheters are purple because they're a size 7. Zoe has what is called a 3.5 neonatal bivona. She basically has never been upsized and she never went to a pediatric tracheostomy because she's so stable on what she has. And because she's a child who doesn't ping hers out, the pediatric one is only different in that it has a couple of millimeters longer length on it to stop it from coming out quite easily. But she's never required that because she's quite defensive of people being around her tracheostomy, and she doesn't like people playing with it, and she doesn't like people touching it, and she won't touch it herself. She has accidentally decannulated herself once, and that was when she thought that she had a speaking valve on the end, but I'll get onto that in a minute. So on a day-to-day basis, this is out because with it in, of course, they can't breathe. You would have, I'll use Dora as an example if I can. If I try and do this sitting up, which should be entertaining. Right. Hello, Dora. Apologies for Dora being naked. Zoe has a tendency to hide all her doll's clothes. We're not really sure what that's about. Anyway, so imagine that Dora's coughing. You would hear that there was something inside there that needed suctioning out. Imagine it being like a bit of snot. You would open a tracheostomy, the catheter like this. Now, this is where I'm going to have to use sound effects by my mouth because Zoe is at school and has her portable suction pump with her. And I only have a massive Sam 12 upstairs, which is this massive, heavy thing. And I didn't really want to bring that downstairs. So hence, you're going to have me doing sound effects. So imagine that you had a suction pump here and you pressed it on and it would be going. What you would do is you would take the catheter out and you would look on here, because I don't know if you can see this, I shall try and show you, is that each of the catheters have got measurements on there, and the measurements are correlate with the length of the tracheostomy tube. So in Zoe's case, right, I would never do this if this was a real person, because obviously I don't want to get the end of this catheter touching anything else, because otherwise it's unhygienic and unsterile. But as this is a doll, I won't take that into account. In order to measure, oh, hold on, that's Zoe's school. I'll come back to you. Hello? Hi. Okay. Yeah. Right. She's got a whole box of them at home. Yeah, I've got plenty. Got plenty. Yeah, Zoe just likes to take stuff. No, she's got plenty at home. I've got a whole box of them. It's not a problem. It's fine. Little monster. Yeah, no. She was. I've got a whole box of them. It's fine. Thank you. All right. Take care. Bye. Bye. Right. Sorry about that. I hope you didn't catch that conversation, but basically My daughter's a bit of a cheeky one, and she has just seen the hearing impairment lady at school and has tried to swindle a load of batteries, hearing aid batteries, out of the woman when she has a whole box upstairs. But let's not go into that. Back to the tracheostomy. Catheter has measurements on it. So to find out how long you need to put your catheter in, you take a tracheostomy like this, and you stick your catheter in until the end. And you see how it's coming out. I don't know if you can see if it's coming out. Maybe you can imagine it. You get right to the end, like that. I can't see if you can see it. I'm trying to hold too many things. And that, put your finger at the end, and that is how long you need to suction to. In our case, it's 6. So, and this is a 7 catheter because Zoe's tracheostomy is a 3.5. So you take the 3.5, double up, and you've got a 7. Catheters come in all lengths and sizes. Zoe can use a 6, which doesn't really tend to suction up much, a 7, which is a really good fit because there is still space around it, the catheter for her to breathe, and an 8, but an 8 blocks the tracheostomy completely. So when you suction with those, you have to be quite quick. But they're very good when she's got really thick secretions. Good Lord, now the dog's starting to bark. Right, so imagine I press the button on the suction machine and it's going zzzz. What you would then do is take your catheter while the machine's pulling. You would stick with your finger off of the catheter. You would stick the catheter in here. Okay, don't ask me why, but she's got quite a sticky trachea. Anyway, you press down and we go. And you would pull out. Now, some people say swizzle, some people don't say swizzle. I swizzle. And then I use a catheter up to 3 times each time. So if this hasn't touched anything, I would go back in, take the finger off, go in, all the way to the end, until I can't hear anything. And if you listen to the child breathing, which clearly you guys can't because it's a doll, you listen to the child breathing, you can hear whether it's clear because it should just sound like, instead of, which is the sound that it makes when there's trachees in. When Zoe has secretion, she sounds like Thomas the Tank Engine. When she doesn't, she sounds clear and you can barely hear her breathing. So that's a day-to-day thing. When Zoe was a baby, I used to have to do this about 30 times a day, and then at least 25 times over the course of a night. And then if she was ill, if she was really ill, you could do this 150 times in a night between 10 and 6 o'clock in the morning, which just made you feel really, really ill. In fact, that was the worst night ever. And that was because she had flu, because flu in children with tracheostomies is lethal. They can get flu. They don't have the protection against it. Even with the flu jab, she got the flu that wasn't covered by the flu jab. But luckily, she was 3.5, so a lot stronger, and managed to survive it. But it did nearly kill her. Bugs are a liability with a child with a trachea, especially a baby, because they have barely any immune system to start with. And then you take away whatever protection they have from their nose and mouth, and this is just basically anything. Colds. A simple cold can end up with your child in hospital. When Zoe was a baby, she's had it since the day she was born. And from when us being discharged from hospital when she was 10 weeks old, we were in hospital once a month for the first year. Every year, once a month, we were in hospital because someone had passed a bug onto her. Not intentionally, I might add. It wasn't like some sort of gross bodily harm, but she caught every bug going, and small bugs on someone would be a huge bug on her, and she'd be in hospital for a few days, a week, 2 weeks, depends on what the bug was. Babies with tracheostomies are really vulnerable. So when your friend with a child with tracheostomy says, please don't bring a cold round, please don't bring a cold round. So that's the tube. That's where it sits in the neck. I'm a human being, it'll be about here. And babies are born with their larynxes at the top of their throats. So as they grow, it falls and comes down to the middle of their throat. A tracheostomy is put at the bottom beneath their larynx. That is why a lot of children with an occluded airway can't speak when they have a tracheostomy. Hold on one second. Rosie? No. A rather opinionated Tibetan Terrier. I don't believe this. I'm afraid I might have to pause this again. Sorry. Hello? Yes, I did. I have no idea, to be 100% honest, but I can look it up now and see. As soon as I finish doing what I'm doing, I'll look it up and see if I've responded to her. Yeah. Yes, she sounded lovely, so I was fine. Yes. Okay, good. All right. Thank you. Bye. Bye.